Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Islam Today. My name is Zaleha. In the past 2 decades or so, the internet and its attendant facilities, the World Wide Web, YouTube and social media have come to permeate practically every aspect of our lives. While much good and prosperity has been achieved through the internet, with knowledge and communications improving tremendously, there's been a downside. And that is what our show is about today, how the internet, especially the social media, is affecting and shaping the lives of its users, especially Muslim youth. Let's see what some of you had to say. The modern city of Penang goes a long way since the arrival of the first Arab, Indian and Chinese traders. The arrival of Indian Muslims to Penang was as early as the 18th century. It is said that before the 17th century, Indian Muslims were doing business in Kedah, and by 1794, there were 1,000 Indian Muslims in Penang.
The social media is what we know today as the electronic media, which includes the internet, the handheld mobile devices, iPhones, and so on. It is further divided into the components. You have like blogging, which is writing. You have Facebook, Twitter. You have SMSs, YouTube broadcast, Skype face-to-face video communication. The whole thing is social media today.
There is no limitation for social media, but the source should be right and it should not contradict Islam and Sharia.
It is not good to denigrate, embarrass, insult, your fellow human being. But this action of denigrating or insulting and so on, it's not a new invention after the arrival of the social media. People have been doing this for a long time. So religion does not encourage that. In fact, religion discourages telling lies, backbiting and things like that. But no matter what media we use, the law still applies.
It gives a person an opportunity to realize his potential, open his unique capabilities, and improve self-appraisal. Still, it's just one side of the coin. Another would be that by irrationally using this advantage, a person could turn into a kind of egocentric monster.
Islam and social media is a good thing in a sense if you present the media according to the Islamic rules and regulation.
But it could be said that social media is a tool of the age. Just as people used to write letters before, followed by the telegraph and the telephone, the internet is merely another form of communication. More pervasive perhaps, but a tool nonetheless.
Social media and social networks are not about people's passive and static consumption of content, but rather about active comprehension, creation and editing of content, while instigating specific human activity.
One of the important value for digital native is networking, and by employing social media, they can communicate with the other people very well. They can have more networking with the other people.
There has to be some responsibility in terms of the use of the social media. I think it will be a displaced notion of freedom of expression if one were to be involved in such activities like, showing yourself naked and what have you. So one has to be quite careful about the use of social media. Islam doesn't condone such behavior, to denigrate, to demonize people, to slander, other people,
But there is no denying the power of social media. It was the likes of Twitter and Facebook that have been attributed with the rapid dissemination of prevailing harsh political conditions that led to what has become to be known as the Arab Spring or Awakening. In this regard, social media played an important role in the generation of awareness on the part of netizens in creating the upswell of political, social and emotional strength that resulted in the democratization of a number of nations of the Middle East. But again, social media was merely a tool which allowed for the awakening. Dissent has been simmering for some time before actual events took place.
We know in the recent revolts in some of the Muslim countries that the media has been the supporter. When the media is controlled by the regular media, TV, newspapers, etc., controlled by oppressive regimes, through Twitter and other channels, blogs, etc., information has been circulated which allowed them to coordinate the revolt against these rulers.
Social media may be only one thing that influence what happened in the Arab world. If, for example, we see in terms of economics and welfare of the people, so anybody who are hungry, they can be very angry to the government. So social media is important in enlightening people's spirits and motivation that they can do more to change what's going on in their country.
Social media played a very big part for a very simple reason, because the mainstream media, the printed media, newspapers and TV in those countries is very much restricted, controlled. So the people, the masses did not have avenue to voice their concerns, their opinions through the existing mainstream media. So they found the alternative media, the social media, not just useful. In many cases, it was the only way where they could communicate.
Wahida Zain does not therefore see social media as a purely negative influence. She reverts to the argument that the medium is not at fault, but rather how it is used.
We cannot blame social media as negative things also. We will have good things from social media too. For example, you can understand the situation of your brothers and sisters in very poor countries in Africa, for example, through social media. So it depends on us how we see technology, how we see social media. If we want to use it as for negative things, we can do it very well too. And if we want to do it good things through social media, we can do it too. So it depends on us.
So given the tremendous power of social media, from overthrowing tyrannical governments to increasing sales and organizing flash mobs, is there a need to control its use? We'll take a look at this right after this break. The days of waiting by the telephone at an appointed time for it to ring is over. And yes, for our very young viewers, that's what our parents or grandparents used to have to do. Agree on an appointed time and to actually be at home to receive a phone call. And if that phone rang without warning, it was usually greeted with excitement and sometimes even trepidation. But with the pervasiveness and increasing ease of getting and communicating online, ought there be some measure of control over the use of social media?
As long as they communicate with Muslim style, then it is okay. What is I mean with Muslim style is that in terms of clothes, for example, in terms of aurat, for example, they close their aurat, so there is no problem because they are indistant. But if they do it by ignoring aurat, the rule of aurat here, for example, in Islam, then of course it is not permissible.
I would think that Muslims, especially those who live in a predominantly non-Muslim society, the social media would play a bigger role, in the sense that social media provide a platform for Muslims there to articulate the concerns of the Muslim community, talking about religious issues or political events that have an impact, or policies that have impact upon the minority Muslims over there.
Zaman dulu face to face, door to door, antar warga, antar orang ketemu langsung. Kemudian dikembangkan menjadi antar surat, apa yang disebut kartu lebaran, kartu apa, ucapan selamat dan sebagainya. Kemudian menjadi SMS, telepon, dan sekarang berkembang menjadi ini. Jadi secara umum sebenarnya tidak ada dalil yang melarang internet, itu tidak ada. Dalil yang melarang Facebook itu tidak ada. Tidak akan ketemu di Quran, tidak akan ketemu di hadis, kecuali bahwa kemudian ternyata Facebook disalahgunakan.
Well, social media is a tool, and we choose how to use it. So if we choose it for good, we can do wonderful things with it.
If anybody gives you some information, go to the source. If the source is right, you should accept the information. Otherwise, we have to fight for the right thing.
But Pak Suparto brings up a pertinent point that the internet, and more specifically the World Wide Web and social media, are products of a global movement and philosophy, and as such, its influences are derived from the widest possible cultures, values and thought, what he refers to as global values. And here is where we do see aspects of contradiction with our faith.
If I'm allowed to simplify the value here, I just divide into two values. I have what we call Muslim value and, let's say, global value. And nowadays there is a quarrel or a fight between those two values. There is a competition between those two values. And unfortunately, among the youth, the global value is more dominant than the Muslim value.
Muslims want to see a strong Muslim infrastructure presence on the internet, which unfortunately does not yet exist. In other words, even when present on the internet, Muslims are poorly represented. This inspired us to jointly create, in addition to a social network, an Islamic hub with its internet resource, payment system, and trade infrastructure. We would like the internet Muslim space to be developed and capable of meeting a modern Muslim demand.
As a Muslim, we have to use Muslim value. When we use Muslim value, it means that we have to respect others and we have to respect ourselves. If we communicate with other people by ignoring our awrat, for example, it means that we do not respect ourselves at least. So of course it is not allowed in my mind as a Muslim.
Cara terbaik adalah prevensi hati atau pengamanan hati, pengamanan iman terkait dengan penyimpangan-penyimpangan itu. Karena untuk melakukan fitnah, melakukan pencercaan sungguh sangat mudah. Dan dibaca sangat masif oleh siapapun yang punya account itu, pasti akan tersebar jauh luar biasa dibanding sekedar ghibah selama ini yang dilarang Nabi itu, dilarang Al-Quran itu. Kalau ghibah langsung aja dilarang, apalagi ghibah melalui internet atau melalui teknologi canggih itu.
Internet today is a media tool by which we are able to reach places we couldn't reach before. Muslims actually should be promoting Islam through the television globally, but we don't have control over that media. Now, the internet, by Allah's will, because it is something which Allah has permitted its development. People who discovered the internet were not looking for the internet. They were looking to do something else. And the internet showed up, for them, right? So we know it's from Allah. These discoveries, we have to know, really, ultimately, it's from Allah. Allah is providing a means for weak Muslims, because we are weak today, a means to be able to carry the message of Islam to people on a scale unimaginable before.
I'm really happy actually because many young Muslims use social media advertising what good things, good activities they have. For example, any invention that they have, they can show others through social media. So I believe that young Muslims are very good right now as long as once again, older people, their teacher, their parents, and lecturers or ulamas can guide them, can give them good examples.
We'll take a short break here, and when we return, we'll be looking at what the internet holds for us in the future. So how do we deal with the increasingly pervasive use of social media? What lies ahead for our Muslim youth who seem so enamored with a technology that has become part and parcel of their lives, one that has become impossible to live without, it seems? How do we reconcile our Islamic values with the World Wide Web?
Some of the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke about the times to come, that Islam would enter into every home. You know, information about Islam would become available or accessible to people everywhere, because the internet is in most homes, or it's spreading. It should be in most homes within the next decade. No doubt, you know, these will be ways by which that prediction of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which was based on knowledge, not guesswork, you know, is being fulfilled.
Using social media is a good way to clean up the image of Islam.
From social media, people out there will know about the Islam, and they will try to find out about Islam and try to search about Islam.
But perhaps the solution lies in being able to address the specific needs of the Muslim online community, a social media network for Muslims perhaps, one which incorporates and addresses Islamic principles and values, and with which Muslim parents would have no qualms from their children using.
Our primary force is our architecture, which is based on the community idea. This is its innovation, and it's a step forward in the process of the development of social networks. This is our main advantage and uniqueness. Firstly, our concept means that a person does not invent himself on the internet, but uses it for bettering himself and helping other people. Secondly, it is a community system to provide for living in one's dwelling and locality, and still in a common Muslim space. And thirdly, our concept involves structuring the Muslim mentality with both the pre-installed and user-created contents of our social network, which is unlike any other. In other words, this is Muslim content. A Muslim person would feel comfortable in our network.
The most important one in social media is that the number of the followers of the social media. If we are able to develop our own social media, but it is only used by certain amount of people, I think it is quite good work.
There is a verse in the Quran about communicating, where one of the prophets advises his son, do not raise your voice when you talk to people, because the ugliest voice is the voice of the donkey. So be polite, and we should not walk on the earth like as though we can split the mountain. Meaning we must be humble. So this is good advice, for everybody, whether you're offline, online, through whatever media.
It provides that platform for Muslims, especially those living in a predominantly non-Muslim community, to develop that sense of belonging in their own local community, as well as a sense of belonging to the larger Ummah community, the world over. This is important because it's quite crucial for Muslims to develop that identity, that Muslim identity within this multicultural setting.
As a general advice to Muslims, young and old, when we go online, we should say Bismillah. You know, if our intention when we're going to go online is not honorable, then we will be very shy to say Bismillah and then go. So if wherever we find that we are shy, then don't go, right? Don't go until your intentions, are honorable. When they're honorable, Bismillah, go ahead. Of course, we have to remember, Allah is aware of whatever we do.
In my mind, whether the youth here will grow in a good way or in a bad way, it comes very short from the family. If from the beginning the family can develop Muslim value very, very strong, then I think wherever the youth here will go, for example, they will keep it in their mind.
I believe that we Muslims should introduce a constructive approach to the development of social networks in terms of morale, tradition, and ethics, in order to be labeled a big shot for taking our responsibility for society or leaning on traditional values. As our messenger said, peace be upon him and God's blessing. Counterparties to welcome will receive the award, similar to that befalling for committing this welcome.
Social media, love it or loathe it, it's here to stay. But perhaps as with all things, and especially in Islam, moderation is the key. Used wisely and effectively, social media does keep us in touch with long-lost family and friends and spread important messages and even the beauty of Islam. So perhaps the rule of thumb is to inculcate in our youth a sense of awareness and caution, that anything that goes online stays online and remains there for the world to see, no matter how much security or care we might take with guarding our privacy. And with that, we've come to the end of the episode. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.